so much more. And I was like, I need to disseminate this. Like it's just so bizarre and dangerous.
You have the strength within yourself to stand up for the truth. And just about the time that you feel like giving up is exactly the time that you need to fight back harder.
All right, happy to be joined today by Chaya Raichik, who of course runs the account Libs of TikTok. And Chaya, I know that I am definitely mispronouncing your name, aren't I? To start with.
It's pronounced Chaya, but whatever works.
Chaya? So is Chaya fine?
So it's from the throat. It's like,
okay.
It's Chaya.
Well,
but I'm not a lib. I'm not going to have a breakdown if someone done names me, so don't worry.
Okay. So and don't take it personally. Infamously, I am too stupid to pronounce almost anyone's name at all. So now we've communicated behind the scenes quite a bit over the last couple of years. It's the first time that we've done any kind of interview. And so I'm interested to kind of want to talk about things that are happening, obviously, right now. But I'm interested to go back first to get a little bit of your background. Like, how did you started, of course, with the account Libs of TikTok. Why did you decide to first open up that account, and what did you envision it would become? I can't imagine that you thought it'd be as big as it turned out to be.
No, I never envisioned this, that's for sure. So I started during COVID because I couldn't work anymore at my job. We were locked in our homes, basically. I was in California at the time, so it was pretty draconian. I did not leave my house for weeks on end. And I was never really into politics so much. And that's when I started getting interested and paying attention, because there was people making decisions for us, telling us we can't leave our homes or work. And I'm just like, what's going on? Like, so I opened a Twitter account then, and I started just paying attention, reading up, listening to podcasts and watching the news and reading books and all that stuff. And then I started noticing that all of these videos would go viral on Twitter about COVID mainly. So it was like those people singing about the vaccines. I'm sure you remember those. The dancing nurses, the people who were basically idolizing Fauci. And I thought it was really funny, obviously entertaining. So I decided to just start sharing those videos. And I mean, I noticed they were from TikTok, and I realized they were Libs. So I was just like, oh, these are, Libs of TikTok. And that was it. And that's how it was born, just one day out of the blue.
And how long did it take before the account really kind of caught on and was going viral consistently? Or was it sort of right away? Because to me, it feels like you just kind of popped on the scene and were viral almost immediately. Is that how quickly it went?
Yeah, literally within a couple months, because I started sharing other types of content. So while I'm on TikTok and I'm trying to find those funny COVID videos, I started seeing these videos of these like teachers who were talking about grooming their students and telling toddlers that they could be another gender. These doctors were bragging about giving surgeries to young people who thought they can be the opposite sex. And I was just like, this is wrong. So I knew I wanted to share that. I didn't think at the time, I felt like Americans weren't really aware of how bad the situation had become with the trans movement. So I started sharing those, and that's really when it started going really viral. It took a couple months. It was pretty quickly.
You said that you back in COVID, you couldn't do your job anymore. What was your job?
So I was a real estate agent part-time, and then I also worked in an office in Brooklyn, and both of those were just shut down.
And at this point, I guess for a while now, you've been full-time journalist, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And this, I guess it was over a year ago now when you were first doxxed that was the Washington Post, right? That doxxed you initially?
Yeah, Taylor Lorenz.
Yeah. What was that like behind the scenes? Because to go from, many of us, myself included, of course, have dealt with being, attacked by the media, but I imagine it's a sort of different experience when you're anonymous, and then sort of suddenly that's taken away from you in this really malicious doxing attempt. So what was that like for you?
Yeah. So not just was I anonymous for about a year doing this, but me personally, I'm also a very private person. And that's why they weren't really able to find information or photos of me online, because I never shared that. In my private life, I'm very private. I don't share a lot of personal things. That's how I grew up. And to suddenly have my name published in these massive newspapers, it turned my whole world upside down, because I never wanted this. I mean, I never would have wanted to be famous or to be someone who's spoken about in public or in the media. It's not in my nature at all. And I will say, though, that probably a couple months or weeks before I was doxxed, I kind of started getting the feeling, I'm like, I think I'm like making a difference. And there are some big people who are noticing what I'm doing. So it's probably a matter of time till someone tries to track down who I am. So I kind of was like dreading when that was going to happen. And then, of course, it did happen. And I mean, it was the most chaotic week of my life, obviously. I had to go into hiding. There was also a lot of uncertainty, like, were people going to show up to my door? Were they going to try to come hurt me? Or would they go hurt my family, my parents? What would they find about me online? Like, I had no idea what was going to happen. So, and of course, there was no photos of me until months later. So it was like that constant, like living in suspense. Like, what's the first photo going to be? Are they going to find me? Are they going to find pictures of me? Are they going to follow me? Reporters? Like, who knows? So it was really scary.
Since that time, have you been able to kind of get back to living a somewhat normal life, or has this totally changed your life on a day-to-day basis?
I would say I live a pretty normal life. I pretty much do this all day, every day, 24/7. I get recognized sometimes in public, but I don't make a big deal of it. I never tell people who I am unless someone knows or mentions it. Like, I don't go around talking about it all the time. So I try to live a normal life and kind of separate Libs of TikTok from my personal life.
Have you had any negative in-person interactions with anybody? Anybody that knows who you are, doesn't like you, and yells at you or anything like that?
Actually, not really. No.
Yeah, people think for me, it's happened like, not counting college campuses, it's probably happened 3 times in my whole career. So which just kind of shows you that these people are, cowards, obviously.
Right, I was going to say. Yeah, they're keyboard warriors. And especially, I mean, you go out, like you said, college campuses, there I know there's always a lot of protesting and really hateful people there who are opposed to any kind of other opinions. But I've actually never spoken on a college campus. But yeah, I think people have this like notion that, we go to the store and we're just harassed always. And we live our lives and we're just harassed constantly by leftists. But the reality is that these people are cowards.
Have you thought about doing any college speaking?
I have, yeah. I've gotten, I've been in touch with a couple different organizations and campuses. Just hasn't worked out yet, but I think hopefully soon. I do plan on doing that.
Diversify your savings with physical precious metals while stockpiling silver in your home safe with Birch Gold Group's most popular special of the year, now through December 22nd. For every $5,000 you spend with Birch Gold, they'll send you a 1-ounce silver eagle coin for free. Text Walsh to 989898 to claim your eligibility now. You can purchase gold and silver and have it shipped directly to your home, or have Birch Gold's precious metal specialists help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold for no money out of pocket. And they'll send you free silver for every $5,000 you purchase. Keep it for yourself or give something with real value as a stocking stuffer this year. Just text the keyword Walsh to 98989898 to claim your eligibility. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers, now is the best time to buy gold from Birch gold. Text Walsh to 989898 and claim your eligibility for free silver on qualifying purchases before December 22nd. That's Walsh to 989898. I think for people, especially someone on the outside, maybe if they're just becoming familiar with you and what you do, they might be surprised that you attract as much vitriol as you do from the left, given that most of what you do is simply you're taking content other people have already posted publicly online and you're sharing it. It's already been shared and you're just saying, hey, look at this. Why do you think the left views you in particular as such a threat?
So there's a few reasons. Number one, obviously, they understand and they realize that their views don't hold up to scrutiny. And when you're just sharing it in their own words, like this is what they themselves are doing, this is what they're saying, these are the beliefs that they hold, without really any commentary or opinion. And they realize that they sound insane. And like I said, they don't hold up. So it's a really big threat to them. The other thing is, I think there's the way that most kind of like journalists and commentators have done things, maybe up until recently, is I feel like they try to keep it more polite. And this is what I appreciate about you a lot, Matt, as well. I feel like both of us, like, we just don't care what they think of us. Like, we will just say exactly what we want and we'll say it as we see it. We're not afraid to be called names. We're not afraid to be trolled or to troll them. And I think that that really bothers them a lot because like they called you like transphobe of the year, right? You won transphobe of the year. I was kind of jealous, by the way, but hopefully I'll win it this year. And it's like, and what do they want you to do? Like, they want you to just like shut down your operation. Like, I'm so sad, I'm going to cry. I was called transphobe of the year. But like, no, we don't respond like that. Like, we just hit it right back at them. And I think they're not so used to that.
You said, we don't care what people say. I'll say for me, certainly at this point, and for a while now, that is certainly true of me, that I quite literally don't care what any of these people say about me at all. Well, that wasn't always the case for me. I mean, I think when I first got into any position of like presenting my ideas in public, at first getting dogpiled by people and being accused, called all these names that aren't true, it's like, it did bother me. I think it's natural. It's a natural human reaction to be bothered when people hate you, I think. And for me, it seems like over time, it's just been this, it's just kind of this numbing effect. It just doesn't matter anymore. So are you that numb now to it? Or did you immediately jump in and you didn't care? Was there any kind of similar process of having to learn not to care what people say?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, there probably is a process of learning how to deal with all the hate. I got over it very, very quickly. Maybe it was unnatural. I guess I just realized right away that these people were insane. I also, like I said, I was never really involved in politics. So I'm kind of like an outsider. And I just come in, I'm sharing videos, and these people are hating on me. And I'm just like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't care about you. I don't care what you say. I know what I'm doing is right. And that's just what keeps me, motivated, and what keeps me, what enables me to just continue doing it without thinking of what the haters are going to say and how they're going to react.
Do you think that's the health? Because this is what I'm always trying to figure out about myself is because when people always ask me, how do you deal with all the hate? And I kind of give the answer I just gave. But I'm not sure I don't know. I don't always know what to recommend to other people about, well, how do they deal with it? Because I don't know that simply not caring what anyone thinks is the healthiest psychological state for a human being. There's something about it that feels kind of unhuman. But at the same time, I don't know how you function these days if you do care, because that will be used against you and you'll be easily manipulated. So what do you say to people when they ask you a similar question? If they ask for a recommendation, like how do they deal with it? What do you tell them?
I tell them to ignore it. And if we're being really honest, there obviously are some days that are difficult. And there are times where sometimes it could get to me, which is normal. If that wasn't the case, then I wouldn't be human. So my policy generally is to ignore them. If there's something like especially egregious, then I'll respond to it. Or if it's someone like Taylor Lorenz, like I'll never care what she says about me ever. Will never bother me, and I'm always happy to troll her and to have back and forth with her on Twitter. But yeah, I would say just ignore it.
You know, the holidays are here, and while you're out shopping for your kids, family, and friends, don't forget to shop for your pets too. I know I never do. Give your dog the gift of a healthier and happier life with Rough Greens. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, the founder of Rough Greens, is focused on improving the health of every dog in America. Before I started feeding my dog Rough Greens, I had no idea that dog food is dead food. It contains very little nutritional value. Think about it. Nutrition isn't brown, it's green. Let Rough Greens bring your dog's food back to life. Rough Greens is a supplement that contains all the necessary vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega oils, digestive enzymes, and antioxidants that your dog needs. You don't have to go out and buy new dog food. Just sprinkle Rough Greens on their food every day. Dog owners everywhere are raving about Rough Greens. It supports healthy joints, improves bad breath, boosts energy levels, and so much more. We are what we eat, and that goes for our dogs too. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black is so confident Rough Greens will improve your dog's health. He's offering my listeners a free Jumpstart trial bag so your dog can try it. Get a free Jumpstart trial bag delivered straight to your door in just a few business days. Go to roughgreens.com/Matt or call 844-ROUGH-700. That's ruffgreens.com/Matt or call 844-ROUGH-700 today. And when it comes to the things that might, for me even still, if there is anything that could still bother me a bit, it's, as you say, it's not names or you're a bigot or transphobe. Who cares about that? But it's when you're accused of something that just simply isn't true, that can still, I think if you're a human being, that bothers you because you value integrity. And when you encounter people who don't have any integrity, it's frustrating, even still, no matter how used to it you are. So on that note, you know, you've been blamed, including recently, but many times over for bomb threats and death threats and so on to schools and hospitals that mutilate kids and all that. Well, first of all, in general, how do you respond to those sorts of accusations?
Yeah, so I was just going to bring that up because even when they blame us for things that are just completely not true, right? Like just malicious lying, it doesn't bother you when it starts getting to the point of where it's like you're getting blamed for this just like constantly. You expect it already, you know what's going to happen, and that's kind of what happened with the bomb threats. The first time I got blamed for bomb threats was over a year ago. That was with Boston Children's Hospital, and I remember that day. It was actually the day I met with Tucker, and I was with Tucker, and I was really stressed out, and it really bothered me because I was like, I obviously bomb threats are horrible. Anyone who calls in a bomb threat should be arrested and charged. And I would never, I would never condone any type of violence or threats. And I was getting blamed for this threat at a children's hospital, and it was horrible. And I was feeling very anxious about it. And obviously now looking back, I realized it was just one of their tactics to try to undermine me, right? And to destroy my credibility. Because if they're able to kind of frame you as this violent, dangerous person who loves violence and bomb threats, then that's how they could try to like censor you, silence you, and cancel you. So at this point, it does not bother me at all. I mean, they blame me for bomb threats probably weekly or multiple times a week sometimes. And I'm just like, I know what they're doing. I know what their strategy is, and it does not bother me in the least bit. I know that I've never called for violence. I know that I've specifically called for these bomb threats to be investigated, for people to be arrested. So, they can call me whatever they want. They can make up whatever story they want. But at this point, it doesn't bother me at all.
Isn't there also kind of a weird, almost admission that goes on when the left says, well, you can't talk about this because that's going to lead to bomb threats. It's almost like what they are saying is that this thing is so horrific that if you talk about it, it will encourage people to lash out violently, even if you're not encouraging that. I've always found it to be just the very, the whole talking point about bomb threats, to me, kind of carries with it this admission of the horror of what they're doing, for example, to children in these hospitals.
Yeah, and in general, the whole like stochastic terrorism thing, the whole charge, it just makes absolutely no sense, because they're basically saying you're only allowed to report or discuss certain topics that we approve of, right? Because if there's anything, if you're discussing something that we don't like, then there's going to be these threats, and then you're not allowed to talk about it. They basically want to preemptively ban you from speaking. And I actually spoke about this with a journalist at USA Today, and I asked him, I said, you're going to publish an article about me, how I'm responsible for bomb threats. And, I'm going to get some death threats after that. So is that your fault? And he basically said no. And he was trying to get me to agree to start putting disclaimers on all my tweets saying, please don't call in a bomb threat just because I'm posting about this. And I said, well, will you put a disclaimer in your article not to send me death threats just because you're reporting on me? And he said no. So I found that to be very telling. And I think, obviously, no matter how egregious the content is, bomb threats are bad. But they, like you said, they're not even talking about the content. They're not talking about what led to these bomb threats. By the way, these bomb threats might not even be real. I have yet to see, I think I saw one police report total from all these bomb threats they blamed me on. We filed FOIAs, we haven't gotten anything yet. So when I say bomb threats, it's really in quotes, because we don't even know if they're real. But they leave out the context. They leave out the content. What was the bomb threat in a reaction to? But they obviously never show that information.
Well, I've got a holiday gift idea that's sure to make you the hero of the season. Now, we all know that the holidays can be a bit hectic. The shopping, cooking, the never-ending list of things to do. But fear not, because I've discovered a gift that's not just thoughtful, it's downright transformative. It's the gift of Genucel skincare. From now until Christmas, Genucel's most popular package has a special discount just for my listeners at Genucel.com/Walsh. Treat yourself and your loved ones to the absolute best skincare in the world. Those troubling forehead wrinkles, fine lines, skin redness, and yes, even a sagging jawline will disappear right before your eyes with Genucel's most popular collection. Genucel promises immediate effects. You'll see results in less than 12 hours guaranteed, or your money back. Genucel sent down a ton of products for the entire office. I can't even put into words how much better their faces look because of Genucel. Everyone now disgusts me a little bit less. It's like a early Christmas present for me. And you also deserve to look and feel your best this holiday season. So go to Genucel.com/Walsh to get this incredible holiday discount. Every order today is instantly upgraded to free express shipping. That's Genucel.com/Walsh today. And that's a very good, that's a good thing to note, that of course, we're saying bomb threats, just imagine the air quotes around it, because I'm not saying this is your view, I don't know if it is or not, but I will go so far as to say that I'm quite sure, in fact, that a large number of them are not coming from the right. And the reason that I know that is, number one, the left has a very well-established propensity for faking these kinds of things. And number two, it obviously does not advance the right's cause at all. So, of course, morally, calling it a bomb threat is terrible. That's why you shouldn't do it. Also, if you actually are on the right and you're concerned about these things happening to kids, calling it a bomb threat obviously is not going to do anything but hurt your cause. And so you might have people that are crazy and stupid enough to do it anyway. But anytime something is happening on a general scale, you have to look at well, who does this benefit? And so, probably they have something to do with it if it benefits them.
100% agreed.
So, you seem, moving from there, we're talking about these hospitals and what they're doing to kids. You seem to focus, like I do, on culture issues, trans ideology being one of the big ones. So I know you mentioned when you first got into it, you were kind of a lot of the content was about COVID. Obviously, that we're pretending that never happened now, the COVID lockdowns. But Why do you focus on these issues? Like, what trans ideology in particular? Why do you think that that's such an important issue?
So, for starters, when I first started out, there was not really anyone talking about it. I mean, you were speaking about it. Abigail Schreier had written a book about it, but it wasn't really something that was discussed daily in conservative news. And I started seeing it from like the TikTok perspective, and I was absolutely horrified. I mean, I think the shock factor of how far this actually went and how damaging it actually is, that really propelled me to start focusing on it a lot. And the fact that no one in America even seemed to know. So it was kind of like it was a massive shock to me. And like I said, I wasn't into politics before, so this was all new to me. And I was just like, I can't believe this is happening and no one's talking about it. So I started talking about that a lot. And obviously now it's national conversation, many bills being signed all over the country to protect children. But I think also if we don't, first of all, it's dangerous. It's physically dangerous. What they're doing to children, obviously mentally, emotionally, they're destroying children. And I think that when it comes to kids, obviously we need to do everything we can to protect kids. That's something that everybody agreed on up until a couple of years ago. So, when you're going to come for children, there's going to be backlash. You're not going to be able to get away with it. So I think a combination of those things really got me to want to focus on it. And then also the future of our country. If our next generation is completely messed up, they're all just confused about their identity. They're grooming our kids, they're indoctrinating our kids, they're teaching them to hate America, to hate themselves, to hate everything, to hate whites, to hate the West. We're not going to have a future. We're not going to have a country. And that's scary.
You point out that it was only a few years ago that there were very few people on the right even talking about this. I remember that quite vividly. And then you had those on the right that if they did talk about it, it was only to say that we shouldn't talk about it because it's a sideshow distraction. And now that has changed considerably. So how do you assess the state of the culture war when it comes specifically to trans ideology and the trans issue? Do you think that would you go far enough to say that we're winning right now? How do you score it?
I would say we're winning more than we're losing. There's so much more work to do. So we're nowhere near done. And we're also, it's not stagnant, right? Because the left keeps making new things up. They're moving the Overton window. So we constantly have to keep up with it. So I think this is going to be a lifelong project, a lifelong mission. I don't think gender ideology is something that's going to be completely removed from society. I think it's something that's going to require constant work. But I am very hopeful at all the things we're seeing in America, where there is a bunch of states banning sex change surgeries for minors, removing gender ideology from schools, banning sexual adult-themed shows and public nudity in front of children. So, when that happens, I'm obviously very hopeful, but we're nowhere near done. There's so much more to do.
What do you think the left gets out of this stuff? Why are they so dead set on trans, LGBT? Why is it so important to them?
I think that first of all, they hate America. They hate our values. They hate our tradition. They hate what we were founded on. And I always say this, I don't think that they actually have a plan for what happens next. I think that they just are so anti the West that they're going to be anti anything that is normal, anti anything that is traditional and conservative. And they want destruction and chaos because that's what they thrive off of. And they are doing that through this whole trans agenda. That's what I think.
You know, keeping your windshields clean is always a pain. The dirt piles up and washer fluid just can't get the job done. That's where my friends at Windshield Wow come in to save the day. Windshield Wow is an innovative windshield cleaning device that uses two magnetic cleaning paddles, one on the outside and one on the inside of your car, to clean both sides of your windshield, all from the outside. All you do is push around the outside paddle and the inside follows automatically, leaving your windshield squeaky clean. Here in Nashville and many parts of the country, we're starting to get a lot of rain. And with that, you get this hazy and dirty windshield. Well, throw one of these in the back of your car so you can always have a clean windshield. I personally own a Windshield Wow, and being able to clean both the front and inside window at the same time is a real game changer. The Windshield Wow applies firm cleaning pressure and is super thin to get into those tight dashboard areas. What are you waiting for? Go to windshieldwow.com, use code Walsh at checkout for a special discount. That's windshieldwow.com and use code Walsh. You'll often post videos of public school teachers like waving the rainbow flag and stuff like that, and with a caption that says, "This is an ad for homeschooling," or "This is why you should homeschool." Obviously, most people know I'm a big advocate for homeschooling myself. Do you think that the public school system, based on everything that you've seen, is it hopelessly broken? Is it salvageable at all at this point?
I don't think so. I think it has to be destroyed and rebuilt from the ground. It's like, and I always say this as well in all my interviews, it is so much worse than anyone realizes. I mean, I'm one person, I have an account, I post a bunch of posts a day. You post about this stuff, there are other accounts that post about it, but we're limited. We can't be sharing every single thing we come across. And I have like hundreds of messages that I couldn't, that I was never able to share from parents across the country. And I obviously do a lot of research into this topic, and it is 1,000 times worse than anyone even realizes. That it's worse than I can ever even have time to discuss and to post about. So I think it has to be completely destroyed.
Speaking of things that are fundamentally broken, TikTok itself, obviously you rose to prominence by showing people what's happening on TikTok. And first of all, why was this such a revelation to people? Like, why are people still surprised by what you pull from TikTok, given that this is a massive platform, one of the biggest in the world? Millions of our kids are on it. Not my kids, but millions of kids are on it. So, and yet what's happening there seems to almost be a secret until someone reports on it outside of that platform. How do you explain that?
I think it's probably just willful ignorance. I think everyone is very well aware of what TikTok is and what it's doing, and obviously how I believe it's a Chinese psyop. It's meant to destroy America, to destroy our youth. Everyone's aware with their algorithms, how they feed anti-American content. Just last week, they were promoting Osama bin Laden, and they made that trend where people were justifying 9/11. So I think everyone is very well aware of what TikTok is, but they are choosing not to. They are choosing to play dumb and to not address it.
I'm sure you get this question from parents sometimes. I know I get it all the time. How would you recommend a parent goes about, shielding their kids from this sort of toxic nonsense that they get on platforms like TikTok?
So I don't have children yet, so I don't know if I feel totally comfortable giving advice to parents. But if I did have children, and when I do have children, I would not let them have cell phones or social media until they're probably in their late teens. I just don't think there's a reason for it. And social media, as we see, is destroying children.
And what about, do you think TikTok should be banned?
Yeah, 100%.
What do you say to the counter arguments to that it's government overreach, so on and so forth?
I think it got to a point where it's actually dangerous, and it will actually save lives if it's banned. Besides for all the security risks, obviously, I'm not even getting into that. But the Chinese have all our data. But for our youth, I think it will actually save lives.
Do you think, going back to this applies to many of the issues, but going back specifically to the trans issue for a minute, we look at all the kind of delivery mechanisms for this social contagion. There's the media, Hollywood, pop culture, the school system, and then social media. Do you think social media is the primary culprit? Like if social media didn't exist, would we be looking at would this issue basically not exist?
I don't think it wouldn't exist, but I don't think it would be at such a big scale. I think it probably did exist before TikTok. I mean, it did exist before TikTok. It existed for a while before Instagram really got big and Snapchat. I think it did exist, and I think it always will. But I think social media just makes it worse.
It also gives, it gives kids, well, obviously it's a delivery mechanism for these ideas, but it also gives them this whole sort of world, this universe that they kind of have to themselves that their parents are not aware of and don't have access to. It's kind of what I was getting at with the TikTok thing, that it's this massive platform, but most adults aren't on it. And so there's this whole kind of culture on TikTok that kids are participating in, and that their parents are completely excluded from.
Yeah, I think, and that's why, like, when I have children, I mean, who knows what's going to be in 20 years, but I would not allow them to have social media. And I do think, though, that even without it, the left and these groomers and activists, they're so vile that they'll find a way. And I mean, just look at the schools, for example. The stuff I'm posting about has been in schools for a long time. It's just nobody knew because they didn't have TikTok. They're always going to come after our children. They're always going to have this agenda. And even in schools, they are creating that same environment that you were just describing, where they're like, your parents are not here. We have your child's attention for, however many hours, and we can sort of impart to them whatever message we want. And so with social media, you have that kind of experience just on a phone, but you also have that experience in real life. Our kids are having that experience when they go to school, sometimes when they go to the doctor, or any kind of like trust, what they call like a trusted adult, because, these groomers are in families. They could be anywhere. That's what I wrote a book about this. So I think it will always be there, and social media is just another avenue. And it's definitely making it worse.
Well, we're running out of time, but thanks for talking to us, but also for all the work that you do. As you know, I think you're one of the most important journalists in the country and have been for years now. Before you go, how can people, aside from Twitter, obviously, how can people find you and find your work?
So we are on libs@tiktok.com. We have some articles there, and we have a newsletter. And then I wrote a kid's book, which basically teaches children how to spot red flags from groomer adults who will try to, cut out the parent and confuse your child. And that can be found on lottbook.com. Awesome.
Chaya Raichik. I said it right that time, right?
Yeah.
There we go. I got it.
Yeah. Good job.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.